And hello and welcome. This is tutorial 2. Tutorial 2 will be covering creating our first evil cube or our first enemy. For this, we want to go back to the folder that we were in. Let's go ahead and click evil cube. And what we want to do is copy the previous project that we worked in, and let's go ahead and paste that into the same area. So then that way they're sitting next to each other. Let's go ahead and rename this folder. So we'll call this project 2 S-mine, project 2 underscore S-mine, and the S stands for stationary. So the movement is described in what we're going to name each one of the cubes, what they do or what they move like. So this is going to be project 2 S-mine. Let's double click in there and do the same thing for the project folder. So click once, twice, slowly, and you'll be able to go in and rename it. So project 2 underscore S-mine. I like capital letter. All right, once we've got that renamed, let's go ahead and double click and open it. So what the S-mine is going to do is it's going to allow us to, it's going to be the base that all the other enemies are based off of. So the introductory code that we're going to be putting in here for the explosion is going to work for all the other ones. And once we have it in the first one, as we copy and paste to make the other enemies, we won't have to worry about rewriting that part of the code. The other thing, there's two things that we want the mine to do. We want it to react to our projectile. So when we shoot it, we want it to explode. And also when we run over it, when our character actually physically contacts it, we also want to create the explosion state and destroy the object itself. So let's go ahead and start. Let's click on content and let's right click in this area, and we're going to create a folder that all of our cubes are going to be going into. So I'm going to name this evil cubes. And once you've got that folder created, let's double click and we're going to create our first character. And actually, excuse me, this is going to be a pawn because characters are something else. So let's right click. Let's click on blueprint class. And from there, we're going to click on pawn. Once you've got the pawn in the content browser, let's go ahead and name it S-mine. And that's what we've got. So once we've got the S-mine created, let's double click on it. That's going to open up what's called the event graph or the editor for the pawn. The first thing that we need to do is actually add an object so that there is a representation of the pawn on the screen. So we're going to come up here to the contents folder and click add component. You will see a cube already there. And once we have the cube into the viewing area, now it may be really big, so you may need to use your zoom tool on your mouse to be able to zoom in and out and be able to walk around it. Now at this point, if you want, you can go ahead and give this a unique color if it didn't already come in with a color. You can again go here into material shapes and you can scroll down and find whatever you want. I could also theoretically type in, let's say, rock, and find, let's say, a rock material and throw that on there. So then that way my cube looks like something, right? Okay, so once we've got the aesthetic part of this done, what we need to do is move over into the code. So right now we happen to be in the viewport. If you, we need to be in the event graph. So let's go ahead and double click in the event graph. And in the event graph, what we're going to need to do is, let's go ahead and delete those three situations or those three events because we don't need those right now. We want to make sure that we have the cube selected. By doing this, when we right click, we will actually see the add event from cube. If you don't have the cube selected and do this, you will not see those options. So do make sure that you have the cube selected. Right click into the graph itself. We're going to type in add event from cube, collision, add a component hit. All right, so when we get that, we now get an event that is unique to the cube, which means that when the component gets hit, X is going to happen. From here, we actually are going to need two things to happen. So because of that, we need to create a sequence node. The one that we are looking for looks like this. It's going to be underneath flow control, and it's going to look like a little, like an E, really, like a really funny looking E. All right, once we do that, we have our sequence. And the first thing that we need to do is that we need to generate a spawn. We want this to change from a cube into an explosion. So in order to do this, we're going to drag off of this and we're going to type in spawn. I can't see what I'm typing. Spawn actor. There we go. Fingers are working now. Spawn actor. And the one that we are looking for is going to be underneath the game, and it's going to kind of look like a ball with a star on top of it, right? So this is going to be spawn actor from class. Let's click there. From there, what we need to do is we need to change this into a particular type of class. So let's click here, and down there we're going to see where is it? Effect explosion. Now the nice thing about this is that it's already a little animation that's going to have both the explosion, the sound of the explosion, and everything already built into it. So we're bringing that in as an already formed element. Now from this, what we need to do is we need to tell it where this needs to spawn. So this is going to be coming off of the spawn transform. So we're going to click there and type get world transform. And we need it to be where the cube is, right? So now we're telling it when the cube gets hit, do one of two things. This one first, change it into an explosion with the sound effect that's going to be there. And where we want this to happen is on the cube, or where the cube is currently, right? So we have a get world transform, and we're going to say cube. So the cube is transforming into this sprite. From there, the next thing that we need to do is we need to get rid of the sprite, because if we don't get rid of the sprite, what's going to happen is that is going to then create a barrier, an invisible barrier that your character may run into, or is possibly it will almost definitely run into. So in order to do this, we need to turn the sprite into a variable. So we click on or drag off of return value, type in, we're going to select promote to variable. And now we need to give this variable a name. So with the variable selected, I'm going to come up here into its details panel and call this explosion sprite, yeah, why not? Explosion sprite. Sprit. There we go. Fingers are working now. Okay, so now we are going to have a variable over here in my blueprints, a variable that is now connected to this event. Okay, so cube gets hit, one of two things happen. The cube transforms into a sprite. We now have something that happens after that, which is the sprite being turned into a variable or becoming a variable. And now what we need to do is, with this selected, we're going to go into its details panel. Underneath events, these are events that you can do for this particular variable. And we're going to say on event end play. It always drags it over there into the corner. I like personally putting it up here in this corner since it's better or closer to where the variable is actually connecting. So I like putting it there. And from there, what we need to do is click off and say destroy, destroy actor. Okay, so the destroy actor. So what that does is it will make sure that once this spawn is, or the sprite has been created, it has been spawned, it will also destroy itself. Okay, and it's targeting itself, so we know it's self-reflective. It's targeting this. All right, the next thing that we need to do to get this code working is that we also need to destroy the cube, because the cube has transformed, but it hasn't actually destroyed itself. We need to actually take it out of the game. So we're going to click out of here, and we're going to create a destroy component. So we're going to click from here and type in destroy component cube. All right. So once we've got that there, we now should have everything that we need to have this pawn be destroyed, either when we hit it with a projectile or when we run over it, since it happens to be a component hit on the cube itself. So let's hit compile, save. We can go ahead and close this box. Let's drag an instance of this actually out onto the platform. I'm going to move it up just so that it's completely visible, and let's go and push play. If I shoot it, it explodes, and we also get the cloud of smoke. And let's go walk over there and see that we don't have any remnants of the cube itself. So there is no leftover sprite, there is no leftover pieces of the cube or any of the code that's left over. It has been completely taken out of the game. So let's eject, and let's do that one more time just for fun. Let's add a second one in there, and let's make sure that we don't have any other issues with the code. Let's push. Oh, I actually like that to be up a little bit higher. Okay, let's push play. So we're going to hit our projectile. That works. We're now going to run into the other cube. That works. And just for fun, we'll do that as well. Okay, fantastic. We now have everything working. Oh, also something that I didn't remind you guys on the first video is remember to save. And remember to save in all three places. So let's go ahead and save the current project so that we know that the current project is saved. Let's come down here to the content browser and hit save all, because we have now created a new object and we want to make sure that that stays there. And let's go underneath file, and just to be doubly sure that we have done everything, hit a save all. All right, so at this point we have now finished with tutorial 2. We have generated created our first character. That character now spawns into an explosion. That explosion, both on whether it gets hit by the projectile or whether it actually gets tapped into us by the character. Okay, thank you very much. And in the next tutorial, we'll be creating our second enemy. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.